Well, good morning. I hope everybody is enjoying the presentation so far. I'm Nadine Blaney from AusBiz. Our next company presenting is Bill Identity. It is an Australian-based technology company that primarily operates in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and the United States, but is managing bills for clients in more than 40 countries around the world. Its cloud-based platform simplifies what can sometimes be a very complex utility bill management process by using its robotic process automation technology. So that enables corporations to have complete control over their utility spend. The Bill Identity platform automates the management of pretty much every component of the process for multi-site companies, including validating invoices and meter data, so clients can streamline accounting and payments processes, optimize supply contracts, and reduce billing charges. So with us today, we have Guy Main, who is Managing Director of Bill Identity. And just a reminder as well for all of you watching at home, mostly at home, perhaps the office, if you would like to submit a question for the Q&A session at the end of the company presentation, you can type it into the Q&A panel on your screen, and you can do so throughout this presentation. So I do hope you enjoy it. Guy Main, Managing Director of Bill Identity, is here.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. Thought I'd just spend a couple of minutes first up just to recap exactly what Bill Identity does in our regions of choice, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Europe, and Americas. I'll also, through the discussion this morning, talk about the work we're doing with some global partners and the focus that will take for us through FY22 and some key themes. But let me first just capture an update on each region. Australia, New Zealand, obviously, we've been in this market the longest. With New Zealand, we've just put a country lead into that market, which has seen some early fruit, which is very good news for us and a good pipeline. But we do get reasonably consistent growth out of the Australian New Zealand market, predominantly focused around utility bill management. So that is where we have the direct one-to-one client relationships with multi-site enterprise clients. We continue to see regular contract throughput. Again, we were able to grow through the June quarter, and a good pipeline there ahead of us. We have been building relationships over the last 9 to 12 months with larger energy retailers in this market. We have 3 major clients there now: Origin Energy, Hydro Tasmania, or commonly known as Momentum Energy, and also Simply Energy in New Zealand, which is different to the Simply Energy in Australia. They're our 3 portal clients. So what we do there is we create portals for those particular energy retailers that digitize the data journey utilizing our RPA core IP, but digitizes that data journey for their clients. So instead of ringing up a call center to get all your bill stream, your half-hourly meter data, if you want to run a budget or you want to do an accrual for whatever you need that data, it's readily available through a mother-daughter type account approach. You can log on, you can perform a number of functions. And for those particular big, large energy retailers, they can digitize a client journey without spending significant CapEx. They can cost out call center solutions by reducing their call volumes, utilizing our core IP and the portal solution, and doing so on a monthly subscription basis. So in the just touching on the UK for us was the first market we focused on in terms of taking what we do here with utility bill management to the UK market. Our initial focus was to target energy brokers, or TPIs as they're called over there. And for many of you on the call, you would know that that's because 84% of energy buying in that market is actually managed by brokers and not the direct enterprise themselves. So we decided in the initial phase to target those TPIs. We have grown that market well with those TPIs. They tend to give you a reasonable proportion of their base up front, but as you work the relationships, we tend to get further upsells through that program by them adding further clients to our capability set. More recently, we've started to target the direct enterprises themselves. Whilst they don't necessarily manage procurement direct, and we'll use a TPI to do that, they do actually want to manage their own bill stream, have access to their own data. So we've recently employed a new sort of high-skilled BDM in the UK market. He comes from a very large energy player in that market. He has relationships at the senior level, with the likes of the big supermarkets and the big grocery chains, chemists, etc. So we're really keen to see how he performs over the next number of months. He joined us in mid-July. That will add to our arsenal in the UK market. In the US, you're aware that, or many of you would be aware that we have a rebates business over there. Grew by 10% in the last quarter. When I take you through the numbers, I'll discuss that. But we've also had a regional approach to building out our capabilities for utility bill management. And we've been working on the team over there over the last 12 months and starting to pick off some regional multi-sites. Things like, there's a company called Wawa that we service, which is a regional 7-Eleven equivalent, sort of a multi-site that doesn't necessarily operate in all of the lower 48 states. The reason for that approach is the disaggregated market that we face in the US. There's thousands and thousands of energy retailers. They all bill differently. They do different forms of payments, all sorts of stuff. They love checks and they love sending out paper mail. So we are undertaking a digital journey in the US. I'll speak to more about that when I talk about the key themes for financial year 22. But what I will say is that that market for us has been impacted by COVID-19. Whilst we saw consistent performance from Australia and New Zealand showing itself, and the UK and Europe, we weren't able to see the same momentum in the US market. So let me, at that point, jump on the key numbers for the last 12 months. So we've just passed $20 million in terms of expected group revenue. That is a combination of our annualized subscription revenue for our utility bill management products, and also added to the annualized rebate revenue that we get for our rebate program in the United States, which is all about energy efficiency programs. As I mentioned, that rebate revenue was up 10% for the year. We saw 85% growth in our ASR, a combination of both organic and inorganic revenue. So ASR growth, we purchased through acquisition Optima Energy Systems back in December. And clearly that's been a good addition to our revenue stream. It's landed, while I talk about them, it's landed very well. Couldn't have asked for a better acquisition. Great team. We've already been able to grow a number of accounts through the Optima portfolio. We've added, I think, 3 accounts just in the last 4 or 5 months after the acquisition in December. So growing its own ASR. We'll probably stop talking about them as Optima. We'll start talking about them as Bid UK. They've really integrated with our team well. Their developers that come with this acquisition have been fully trained now up on the Bid platform, and we're working through building together a best of breed platform through financial year 22, which will be the combination of both our IPs. So overall, 59% growth for the year, which comes off previous years of around 70% growth. So I think all things considered, without the US really contributing at all from a utility bill management perspective, a passable result. And I'll talk more about what we're going to do through FY22 and with the US shortly. We now talk about bills processed. So you won't, if you've followed our reports previously, we talk about meters under management. That is not a requisite KPI for us anymore, and that's because we manage more bills than those that are tied to a meter. So in the US specifically, when we take on a new client, they'll outsource their whole, what I call e-wallet. So it'll be invoices from, of course, electricity and gas and water, which carry a meter, but we'll also things see like waste. We've got things like chilled water. We've got water runoff. We've got taxes and even broadband and telecoms in that market. So the best way to follow us is we'll be regularly updating each quarter on the number of bills that we process, and that will give you a good KPI in terms of our average monthly subscription fee per bill, which is the way that we charge. 226 clients, so we do have major client portfolios, again up 98 from this time last year. And you'll see the impact that the performing Australia, New Zealand, and the UK market has on the share of ASR base, sitting at 92%. Our upsell at 6%, whilst it shows a drop down from 9.5% a year ago, that's on a much larger base. We do have a land and expand focus to our business, which is, if we can get someone just on electricity, we'll bring them on board and then we'll work to upsell them through our journey. And when I talk about revenue levers in our business, there really are three. And the first is that we might sell one commodity in electricity, but over time add further commodities or bills to your bill stream, such as gas, water, and those that I mentioned previously. So that is an upsell or upgrade path for us. Of course, we can grow organically. Examples of that would be clients like Cotton On or BP. BP started in Australia, New Zealand, and now we're in the UK. We've done a bit of BP International, which is more of their refinery arm, and done some things in Germany with them and looking to further expand, as we talked about in our quarterly release. So that's the second lever. And then it's really about service modules. So what can we do for you in your bill stream? Do you just want the standard bill stream where we collect all your bills for you? We validate those bills through our robotic workforce. We manage the exceptions, provide you payment files, reporting systems, and deep dive analytics. But we can also buy your energy on your behalf, which we would charge an additional fee per month per bill. We can also pay your bills for you through a trust account. And we certainly do that for every client of ours in the US. And of course, that attracts another fee. So we've got a number of revenue levers in this business, and clearly upsell is the best way for us to report that. We have an extremely loyal client base, 1.8%. It's got to be one of the best out there in terms of loyalty in the market. Why is that so? Well, when we go into a market, we disrupt the way you have done things previously. So you might have used a finance team, accounts payable, CFO office, a procurement division. When we come in, we do all that for you, and we obviously utilize our capabilities across both our automation and a service team that we have ourselves that manages some of the more complex relationship aspects of our business. So once we've scrambled your eggs, it's very difficult for you to unscramble them, and you probably don't want to, because we've helped you by costing out some of your existing costs of managing utility bills, and we're performing well and performing to our own KPIs and doing a better job. So really proud of our churn number, and that continues to lead our way. In terms of our revenue, quarter on quarter, on the cost side, I was really pleased to see a reduction in terms of our spend. Just on that, our recruitment over the last 6 to 9 months is complete. We see no need at this stage to increase our fixed cost base. In fact, with the focus on automation, I'll talk about in a minute, we think we can actually put more pressure on our costs in a positive sense and drive them down, and specifically through the US market over the next 3 to 6 months. So, as we said in our release, important year for us in terms of our pathway to the all-important cash flow break even, whilst not putting a handbrake on growth in our performing markets. Lastly, from a capital perspective, cash at June sitting at 16.5 million. We're extremely well capitalised for the journey ahead. Graphical representation of our growth. Obviously, we're a consistent performer. FY22 for us is going to be a very important year in terms of accelerating that growth through some key partnerships, which I'll talk to. I've touched on most of these items in terms of a full rearward-looking review. And I'll just highlight a couple of things there, which is in Australia, we started to copy our strategy in the UK, which is to build partnerships with energy brokers themselves. You know, people that, 2 to 3 years ago, we would have seen competition. We now see as advocates for and clients for our services. And being very clear, we want to become, the global leader in terms of accessing bills, in terms of digitizing and validating those bills, and then be able to power up whatever use that you have for them. When we specifically talk about sustainability and carbon net zero goals, there's going to be a lot of companies out there that will be supplying bureau services to advise and be advisors on that. And relationships that we have with the likes of JLL are very important in that regard, because they drive sustainability reporting for many multi-sites globally. So we want to be the best at it, and certainly utilising our RPA backdrop. So being able to use workers to collect bills, to parse, digitize, validate, and then report on has to be a key component if you're going to be able to track anything to do with carbon reporting, etc. We did win our first large account in the New Zealand organically, so that was fantastic. We only just put our country manager over there. So he's done a very good job in his first quarter, and he's actually built a very good pipeline. So more to come from New Zealand. A small number of accounts in the US again. We just saw, as I mentioned in the quarterly before June, we saw some green shoots growth. That's certainly the case there. We've built a bit of a pipeline up now with the team there. I'll talk a little bit about what's in store for them shortly. Over to the positioning. First of all, as I mentioned in the numbers, we don't see any need to increase our fixed cost base. So now we feel well resourced to do what we need to do, and the focus should be on growth, and the focus should be on improving our margins through automation and contribution through automation. In terms of some new relationships, we've been very focused around working with system integrators and working with other advisory firms that have a global footprint. And we see our incremental growth or our scalability coming from a lot of these big partnerships. And we're talking about names everyone here would know. Obviously, Jones Lang LaSalle, and to an extent, Cushman & Wakefield as global facility management companies is the direction that you can expect to see us go, which is how can we provide a solution utilising our core IP that we have proven ourselves to be play a leadership role in globally. And certainly from the JLL experience, they gave us one of their more difficult as in complex banking clients, global banking clients, 37 countries. We had to collect bills. We had to digitize that through our automation, and then be able to validate and push that data into the JLL sustainability platform. And what we were able to do for them was be able to bring down their number of days that it took to collect the bills, which is outwards of 30 to 60 days. We are now delivering that week in, week out within 5.5 days. And when you talk about countries like Malta and Indonesia and Egypt and China, and there's some problematic areas that we have to collect bills. And this is where our core IP stands out from the rest of the field. And we're really pleased to say that we've done a good job there with JLL, and good opportunities for us to do that. I will add that when I was just talking about FMs, it's great to see that we'll be supporting BHP now in their global offices. Our relationship with Cushman & Wakefield has been localized to Australasia. We did do Japan for BHP, or when I say for Cushman & Wakefield, whose client is BHP, one of 17 clients that they have, including the major banks, etc. So now we're growing globally with them, which is hopefully a step in the right direction for that relationship. The last item on that page I'll just quickly talk to, and then I'll finish off with the key themes for FY22. We've been doing a pilot with BP in Germany. BP bought a brand called ChargeMaster, and this is BP's push into the electric vehicle charging station market. It's a key strategy of BP's, as all of these big oil and gas majors get ready for electricity. And interestingly, with cars, it's the first time you have more than a one-to-one relationship on an electricity bill. So a supplier setting a bill to a consumer. So with when you've got a roving battery going around from charging from many different locations, you're going to have a more complex billing relationship. So it's not just your provider, it could be a provider at your home, or when you're traveling, it could be the electricity provider at the hotel. Plus, you've got to obviously pay the hotel for the use of the station. So what we've been working with BP is solving that entire billing conundrum. We're pleased to say that we've passed that so far, that we're expanding that into other countries in Europe now, into the Netherlands and Spain, I think it is. And, you know, BP intend to have 75,000 charging stations within the next 5 years. And the fact that we have a role to play utilizing our core IP, which is, again, remember, pulling in lots of data sources and validating data sources and producing payment files, and we can even produce PDF bills. You know, we can solve that conundrum with BP working together. They know our platform better than anyone. So let me talk a little bit about FY22 and then open up for questions. So we've seen solid sales growth. You know, we'd all like more, clearly, but we have seen solid sales growth in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and now touches little moments in Europe. That will continue to be a core focus of ours, and driving for growth, and really also building those scalable opportunities. Our US rebate business grew again this year. In the last 2 years, we've doubled that revenue stream. You know, it's just touching on almost 5 million of revenue now. When we first used to talk about the rebate business, it was around about 2.1 when I first joined. It's also a very high margin business, 70% plus gross margins. We also think with the push around sustainability globally and with Biden's agenda, that we're going to see some further growth there. In terms of utility bill management, yep, it's been disappointing. I talk about why for just 1 minute. You know, when you're a part of a once in 100-year disease, and suddenly everyone, you know, that's been operating in a business goes home. You know, my team in the US in Philadelphia, it's been 15 months, but they've just got access to the office again in July, so this month. So it's 15 months they haven't been able to go to their own office. But when we disrupt a company by changing the way that they do things and replacing it with our core technology, if most of your staff are at home and, you know, in disparate places, it's very hard for you to take the risk to be disrupted again. So that's what we saw with COVID, maybe unique to us, but certainly that's what we saw. So a lot of our clients in our pipeline were just saying time out. Now they're starting to return. But really the focus for us is in that market. It's a challenging market because it's disaggregation. The number of thousands and thousands of utility, electricity utilities that we have to deal with. So our focus in the US is going to be automate, automate, automate. We're going to look every part of our bill stream. And the initial focus is working with the toolkit that we've licensed through Automation Anywhere. We've been working the last 2 months to integrate that so that it can be mapped and pushed into our core IP, which is our enterprise platform where all the magic happens. We're now building, now that we've completed that, we're building bots. I think we've completed 67 bots up to Friday. So we're able to, we've got about 2,000 bots to build. Our aim is to build that before September 30. We're going to really accelerate that bot building over the next few weeks. We think we'll easily achieve that challenge. And then we'll be able to automate a lot more bill stream in the US market. The last point there, the midpoint there around our global relationships, I touched on it with JLL and people like Cushman and Wakefield. But we have around about 4 to 6, discussions at different stages within our business that we're talking about how we can become the provider of choice for bill data, bill validation, and reporting. And those discussions are going really well. And that's where, as I said earlier in this session, we're going to get growth from, and scalability, because, we'll be talking to partners that have, not just 1 or 2 or 3 potential growth opportunities, but, in excess of 100 per partner. And, having an indirect sales channel approach to our business will be a fantastic addition to what we do direct with our multi-site. So we'll always maintain a focus on our regional multi-sites in the regions. They're very important to us. We're always going to keep a focus on automating and building up our automation capabilities to grow our gross margins. But we want to build these indirect sales channels where we can just be replicated throughout their own supply chain. So very, very important for us through FY22. The last point there being, we want to be very, very focused on becoming the place that you go to if you're a multi-site, if you're a global multi-site or a global integrator, that we can deliver you accurate, timely, validated bill data, give you a rich experience that really will drive that sustainability tailwind that we're seeing in the marketplace. Last point there is I mentioned very early on with a fixed cost base that from our perspective doesn't require growth. And as we grow, continue our growth profile that we've been able to deliver on in the last few years. We bring that US market up to speed with automation and then really push the opportunities in that market probably in the second half, where we can see a great pathway to that operating cash flow break-even moment. So at that point, I'll finish. I may have gone slightly over time and see if we're open to any questions.
Well, thanks, Guy. I went over time because there's a lot of exciting stuff, I suppose, happening with the company. We've got a couple of questions that have come in. First, can you provide an update on the number of pilots in both the US and globally?
Yeah, so we've had a pilot underway in the US market for some time in terms of appraising our utility portal solution. We have some pilots still operating in the UK. One of them quite a long pilot in terms of our capabilities. And really the solution here in terms of our approach to market, we've got 3 portal solutions that we are working with in the market here. And certainly we've got something underway with some more integrators, pilot going with an integrator in this market where, again, we get that sort of indirect sales channel opportunity.
And a question has come in from Edward. He says, can you please explain the difference between actual revenue and expected revenue? How's that accounted for?
Yeah, so our expected revenue is an estimation by the business based on contracted or signed contract clients of what we can expect to receive in revenues in the next 12 months or within the next 12 months. So when we sign up a client, and if you're a TPI, they might have a rollout program that might start with 5,000 bills in the first quarter and moving to 7,000 bills in the second quarter, etc. If that's contracted, then we apply an ASR to that particular client deal. Normally, if you look historically, our expected group revenue normally comes to pass within about a 6 to 8 month period following its expected run rate. Actual revenue is obviously actual revenue, so that's what's receipted in the month. The only other thing that can impact the time from expected group revenue to actual revenue is our onboarding process. And, you know, if you, for instance, sign up a client in the US and they have 1,000 sites, there's probably 1,200 plus utilities that we have to talk to, that either provide the actual commodity to that site or carry that commodity to the site if it's through poles and wires. So that effort alone means that we have to make 1,200 emails, phone calls, contacts to get the redirection of the bill stream into our platform and away from the client. Now that can take a number of weeks, depending on the size of the client that we're taking on board. So that's why you'll see some delays in terms of expected group revenue applying to actual revenue as we go through that process of onboarding.
Now, Guy, we have other questions, but we are out of time. Thank you so much for the presentation, and we'll follow your progress. Thank you.
Yep, thanks very much. And I'm sure Simon Hinsley, if you've got any questions, email them to Simon or myself, happy to answer. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll be back shortly with that.